Hey everybody, folks, welcome back as we go through the Board Game Geek, biggest website about board games on the internet, their top 100 games, and we are now in the top 20. This is the second last video as I go through this. Well, that's the third last video in the series, but as I go through here, we're now talking about fantastic games, and yet one of these games I'm talking about today was not on the list the last time I did this, which was January of 2018. It's February 2020 if you're keeping track. So I'm just going through these lists, talking about them, giving my opinions of the games, and talking about where they were last time. So we're going to start with a game that hit pretty strong last time. It was 18, it's now 20, and it's going to stay on the list for a while. It is the most popular currently. It's the most popular living card game. We'll see if one pops up to take its spot, and that's Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm wondering if the Marvel one will surpass it. It definitely is surpassing it in sales right now. But Arkham Horror, the card game, Z talks about this game on our show all the time. This is one that I thought was okay. I would rather just play Mansions of Madness than this one, although I will say that I am looking at the new sets coming out, and they definitely add all kinds of cool, horrific things that come across in the different games. What is that? If I see those guys coming through the floor, I am moving off the planet. That is scary. And that's what this game is. A lot of people really like this. It has a lot of the stuff, you know, from Fantasy Flight has made their whole big Arkham Horror universe. And this takes the place. And this one, I think, has actually been hurting Arkham Horror. I think people will rather play this than the big Arkham Horror because it gives the same feeling. And also this one plays very well solo, from what I hear. Alrighty, number 19 was 31 last time and has moved up. And that's because a new edition of this game came out. Not only did a new edition to this game came out, but a sequel to this game came out that's even more popular than this edition. This one, which was originally just called Brass, is now called Brass Lancashire. So this is the ugly sister of the two, I suppose. Everyone likes playing Brass. Birmingham, I very rarely see the Lancashire one getting played, comparatively. But the new additions from Roxley Games are amazing, fantastic. Look how pretty that looks. It's just a great looking game. I'm not sure why that. This is the original version of it. You can see not as nice looking. It looks like an old chit and counter game. But it was still very popular when it came out. It's Martin Wallace's most popular game. People really enjoyed it. It's a little more work for me than I would prefer. I feel like the game's a little bit more work than fun. But I know also that I'm a minority on that, and a lot of people like it. So that's Brass Lancashire. As we stay on the Euro game one, this one went up. It was 24 last time I did this. It's now 18. This one has had many maps come out for it, and in fact, another edition of it recently came out, and that's Concordia. They even fixed the cover. That looks much better than the original cover looked. So Concordia, which honestly does not look like that impressive. It's trading in the Mediterranean style. You're building these little networks, but it's the gameplay. You have a hand of cards, and you will play one of these cards each turn, giving you some sort of action that you can play, and one of the cards lets you pick all the cards back up into your hand. There's, like I said, there's multiple maps that have minor differences, sometimes special rules added, but the gameplay itself works really well. And in fact, just last year they released a team version, Concordia Venus, where you could play with a team with somebody else. So a lot of fun, and I enjoy it, and I think this one will be on the top 100 for a while. Next one is 17, and it was 41 last time, so it's moved up to the top. This is one of those Kickstarters that just lots of people love, myself included. This is in my top 10, and that's Seventh Continent. Now, we talk a lot about games with mechanisms, and then there are games with story. This game has some interesting mechanisms, but boy, oh boy, does it have story. In this game, in Seventh Continent, you are building a map of cards, and you can see this is an example here. And you're going to be going through those, turning them over, and finding all sorts of cards that give you this pulpy 1920s story that has hints, or maybe more than hints, of mythos in it and all kinds of weird things in the background, and it's awesome. It is such a fun experience. You play actual real people sometimes, or you play made-up people. Great art, strong storyline. I'm almost afraid to show you more because I don't want to spoil it for you if you've never played it, but it is tremendous, and I'm not surprised to see it on the list. All right, the next game also has the number 7 in it. This is Seventh Continent. Number 16 was 9 last time. So this one was in the top 10, moved down a little bit. This is the only two-player version of a big game that has become more popular than the big game that I know of, and that is Seven Wonders Duel. We've already looked at Seven Wonders on the list itself, a drafting game, and when they announced that it would be a 2-player version, I was like, it can't be done. And lo and behold, yes, it can be. This methodology here, which has spawned a party game spin-off on Board Game Breakfast, where you draft these cards. Some of them are face down, some are face up, and then you're putting them and building up, and there's 3 different ways to win this game. I really enjoy Seven Wonders Duel. It's a really solid game, and I am not alone. A lot of people really like this one, so much that it is in the top 20 here. A 2-player game, go figure. All right. This next one was also in the top 10 last time. It was 10. Now it's 15. Not a very big drop here. Definitely the ugliest game in the top 20, I think. Yep. Castles of Burgundy. I know every time I say this game ugly, there are people who are like, no, it's not that ugly. Look at that! And be ashamed. Okay, it's fine. They made a deluxe version of it this year, which looks about 10% prettier. But anyway, this is a really solid game. I think this is the highest Stefan Feld game there is, probably. This game just keeps doing well. In fact, they announced the castles of, is it Tuscany, I think? That's all we know is the name. And there's a chance that could hit the top 100 based on the name. That's how popular this game is. That might be hyperbole, but I'm not kidding. People are going crazy over the name. This game in which you are using dice to get these tiles and then putting these tiles on your board, scoring points and how they get placed together. I mean, it's definitely a themeless game, but it is one that people really enjoy. All right, the next one dropped from number 7 to 14, and I know why. Because it was pushed out by the new version of it. But we'll talk about this version now, and that's Terra Mystica. Terra Mystica. This is a game I don't like, but a lot of people really enjoy this one, obviously. Look at that. It's just blocks on a board. But this is one that has fantasy races, very distinctly different fantasy races. It has this weird magic system, which I still don't understand thematically how it's working, but it is a very good mechanism. Also comes with water bottles. Anyhow, people love this one. You are slowly building up. There's these different areas on the board, taking buildings off your thing, putting them on there, and scoring points in many different ways. It's very lovely to those who enjoy it. And I hear there are sharks in this game, though, in a sense that there are people who are really good at Terra Mystica. And if you play them, you might as well not play at all. All right, number 13 is new to the list, although I know it was out the last time I did this in 2018, but it's just gotten extremely popular. And it is the highest, hang on, no it's not, but it's one of the highest cooperative games out there, and that is Spirit Island. Spirit Island is it's the anti-colonialism game in which you are spirits on an island and people are trying to come in and colonize it, and then you are helping the natives rise up and fight them by just causing floods if you're the water spirit, or fires if you're this fire spirit, or evil nightmares. But it is a very complex, in my opinion, cooperative game. It's a very high learning curve in this game too, because you have these little decks of cards that are very specific to you and your race, and you can get more cards, and you have to try to figure out combos and work together to stop people. It's really cool. If you take the time to get into the game and learn it, you will really enjoy it. A lot of cool things, Spirit Island. And that's, like I said, new. Number 12 was 12 last year. What? And actually, has this been on the list already? Because this is the second edition of the game. And I want to say the first edition showed up somewhere else. Well, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. That's War of the Ring, second edition. So War of the Ring, 2-player game that is Zulkin in a box. It's the Lord of the Rings in a box. There are plastic miniatures. It is one person's playing the free people, trying to get the ring and throw it into Mount Doom, and the other person is playing the forces of Sauron, trying to stop them. There are cards. All the major famous characters are in here. I think they just announced another expansion for this game coming out soon. And it is a 2-player game. Yes, you can play 4 players, but it's a 2-player game that has all the beats of Lord of the Rings, has a nice dice activation system, and is just extremely popular in many languages, apparently. So I really like it. I don't get it to the table very often just because it's a very long 2-player game, but there you go. That's number 12. Number 11 was number 8 last time. But, you know, again, now we're just quibbling over what's in the top. The only reason this one dropped down was because a few other ones shot into the top 10. I actually would have thought this would be in the top 5. And for some people here in Dice Tower, it's their number 1 game. But not for me, although it is in my top games, and that is Scythe. Scythe is, wow, it's just really cool. I remember when Scythe was first announced. They showed the box cover, or they showed some art, and I was instantly on board because it just looked really cool. I mean, take a look at this card here. There's some farmers working in the field with a bear, and in the background you see some steampunk-type mechs. That's cool. It's an alternate history, great art. And then when Jimmy Stegmaier first talked about it, he said something like, it's going to be kind of like Agricola mixed with, and I was like, what? Now, it wasn't quite what he said it was, and it's a game really unlike any other. There's not many things I would compare it to. It's one of the few games where you get resources and then need to keep those resources on the board away from other people. You can't just store them on your player board. It has really cool action selection system where your actions get cheaper and better as the game goes by. It has very, very differentiated factions and a very strong player interaction. It has combat, but not a ton of combat, and super high production values. You know, it really has it all. And it's a game that, while, you know, I've been talking about games like Root and Wingspan, which are consistently played, Scythe is not as new and hot as those games is at this point in time, and yet it still is beloved and played by a lot of people. So that's number 11, and that's it. We got 10 more to talk about. So we'll come back. We're going to do 2 more videos, the top 10, and then I'll talk about the games that fell at the top 100, and we'll shed a few tears for them. Thanks so much for joining me as we go through the Board Game Geek Top 100. Check out the website if you've never been there. It's fantastic, and you can find all sorts of stats. Until next time, I'm Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.